Here is my SK 30-inch breaker bar. This is, best I can tell, is the newest edition, but when I called SK for the warranty, they said you have to send the whole bar in so that we can make sure that the fitment is right, because they made modifications to the head. So I can't just spend $20 on a head kit, because the head kit that will be available would probably not even be compatible. This is just a simple star. I'll show you what it looks like. So you can see the actual half-inch part is what broke. The head was not fully inside the socket. So he was trying to get a ball joint off of his truck, and of course the socket should have been all the way onto here, but instead of that, because he was, standing up when he was pulling on the breaker bar, he allowed the breaker bar to come out a little bit like this, and then where the torque was being matched against the socket corner here, it was a mushroomed out socket from impact use, and those are the big sockets I have, and I believe that it just applied that force right there around that detent ball area, which is the weakest point on this. This is an incredibly strong head. They put a lot of extra material here. I'm going to take this apart for you. So this is really an ingenious design. I don't know if the other manufacturers do this, but you've got your custom screw, which is probably a standard size, which is really intelligent, because you could replace this with something else in a pinch, but this is never going to be what breaks, I can promise you that. Not on this tool. I would be very surprised. And then in here you just have this crush washer. That's probably a standard, but it's a specific one because you have inside here, of course you have the hole to match. So this is a very smart tool. I've used this thing on some really, really high force applications. I think my buddy was a retard for breaking it, because I've used it a zillion times and never had a problem with it. There's no accounting for what somebody's going to do when your back is turned. Yeah, even though this is broken, I did want to let you guys know that this thing is worth buying. It is a really awesome, stout piece of manufacturing. I don't put a pipe over this. If I must put a pipe over something, I put it over my 3/4. This is essentially a way to apply less force to accomplish the same task. This thing, more often than anything else, I would use to get off a really tight brake caliper bolt. Not the caliper bolt, but the caliper bracket bolt, which on a truck can be unbelievably tight, and I've been able to get those loose with this. I've always used this thing correctly and never had a problem. But that was a ball joint, and ball joints are something different. So yeah, I do recommend this 30-inch breaker bar from SK. I think it's unbelievably strong. I think if you break it, it's because you've been using it wrong. That thing is equipped to handle all the levels of human force to be applied to it. I've put my full strength. I've put probably a good proportion of my full strength, maybe, I don't know, 200 and change against the long end of this bar before, and not had a problem with it. And like I said, the only reason why it's broken now is because I visually saw this as it was being broken, that the socket had slipped down a little bit from the head, which is prone to happen when you have an impact socket that's been wallowed out already from use. That's the chrome moly reaction to frequent impacts, and essentially it renders the thing useless for anything but impact use. And that is why we are supposed to have large chrome sockets, but large sockets are expensive, everybody knows that, and I'm not going to go to Harbor Freight. So I use my impact ones, and it wouldn't have been a problem even in this case if it hadn't been for a little bit of misuse from my friend. So there it is, and I hope you guys benefit from this review, but this is a tremendously awesome tool, and I definitely recommend it for anyone that is spending the money. Don't waste your money on Snap-on. Snap-on will break too. Use it the right way. I mean, Harbor Freight, you are gonna break it more often than not from misuse, but don't trust Harbor Freight one bit. That thing, it'll just come apart on you. So, and the same thing with like AutoZone brand. I've had one from AutoZone. It's not spring steel. I don't know what they use, but it breaks or it bends instead of springing back. So, all right. Take care, you guys. Best of luck out there tool shopping. Not everybody has interest in this sort of thing, but I want to give you guys a little walkabout and show you how exciting things have been over here at Easy Eddy's recently. Because reality, this is YouTube, but for me this is just reality. This is just me living my life and having a camera today and thinking that it's probably a good idea to show people all the cool stuff that we have going on. Not because it's all, yeah, my life is so great, my life is so glorious. It's because this is real. So let's see some what's going on. So over here I have my Swisher, which by the way is the most amazing brand. They do such a good job. This is your shortcut option. This is cheaper. I got it for $1,000 off the Craigslist market. And I will say I've had some issues with the engine. Not well taken care of, I would say. But I did the carburetor build and everything, and then we were losing fluid out of the vent thing, and did a little research and added a little fluid and squirted a bunch of fluid out. I have a hole drilled in the bottom of that. That's not a vent cap, that's just pipe plug. But it was jetting out, you know. It's kind of funny. It looked like it was taking a leak every time you'd return. And somehow the system was basically it was tilted such that the fluid was contacting that there instead of the air, and probably just because the thing was on a slant. So my worker ran it until there wasn't hardly any fluid in it, and it wouldn't really push. So I went out of my way to get a brand new log splitter.
County Line from Tractor Supply.
This here is just a I guess it's a 9.5 horsepower motor, but this thing is really fast. They leave out a couple key features, like I don't know if they just didn't think about it or you're just supposed to clean this frequently, but when this piston's down, you got to clean up here, because otherwise you'll ram back and collide material onto this head right here, and that's how you damage that. So you don't want to build up too much material here. You can see that's all jacked in there really tight. But this thing is really fast, and we're able to split tons and tons of wood with it in a short amount of time. I had this Lumox worker out here, and he decided he thought it would be a good idea to smash-a-roni my splitting maul, which by the way had a metal sheath on it, like that one. This is a pro splitting maul, and he overstruck it so hard, so many times, that the whole thing just broke off. And he said it was because the maul wasn't strong enough or something. You see here I got a pile of metal parts with red paint on them. That used to be my glorious, beautiful, amazing Chuck and Duck chipper. And one day something bad happened. Got a hole blown in the side. You could see right through it. Didn't check the oil every day like I should have. And now a perfectly good machine with nothing wrong with it needs an engine that costs $5,000. I mean, look at that. That block is shot, man. You ain't fixing that. But I went ahead out there into the market, and I looked around, And they didn't have any chippers for sale except for this one right here. In my whole state, they didn't have nothing. Moorbark didn't have anything. And this is the Moorbark, lucky me. They had it for sale at the Bandit dealer, which is the Bobcat dealer up in Janesville. This is an M12R. These are considered to be one of the better machines out there available. You'll see the roadside service crews occasionally have them. But this is a reliable machine with minimal electronics on it. Had to do a starter on it, which is a Mitsubishi, because this has a Kubota motor. There's your Kubota 89 horse. That's funny because that's just a little bit more power than the Chuck and Duck. But this machine's got the hydraulic feeder on it, and it's quite safe to run, I would say. I did some welding and made it go together because this all was blown apart. Somebody must have had a problem with the chip ejection, and it filled up here, and then there was compression from beneath as the hydraulic feed continued to turn, as the drum continued to compress further, more debris in an upwards direction. This was full of something. I don't really know how they pulled it off, but the guy that sold it to me at the salesman told me that there was a obstruction in there, and that was how that happened. Let me just say I learned a very valuable lesson about machinery. Check your oil every day. Very valuable lesson. Do not learn the lesson the way I did. This is very expensive to learn. That chipper had no problems with it. It was working fine. So I did that to myself. So here on this tractor, it decided to hoot and screech like a banshee, and I was wondering why, when I followed the instructions and I unscrewed that little plug down there, and then I added more fluid in it, and then I stopped adding fluid when that plug started squirting fluid out, and I said, how come it's still screeching and it's got weak hydraulics? And then I read in the manual you're supposed to flush it and refill every year. So I drained it. I only got 5 gallons out of it. It's supposed to have 10 in it, so I put 10, and now it ain't screeching. But I figured all this fluid is coming out right here on this thing, just gooshing and oozing out and pouring down. So I got to get a new hose for that somehow, some way. This is an old tractor, very hard to get parts for, and new parts for this thing are so expensive. I had a brand new hose. Watch out for these little flexy tippy fitting thingies, because they're capable of turning, because you have movement on the rear end. I don't know exactly. It's for install purposes. It's a freewheeling fitting there. So that fitting, brand new, was leaking, and it's a good old US brand too, Farmex or something like that, and pouring and just gouging all over the place. So I had to go get that reworked by the place. And by the way, they like to just cut it off at the thing right there and then put a new end on, because they like that better than doing a whole new hose for you, because then they got to do another fitting that's perfectly good, and then they got to do hose that costs money. But that worked out fine. It was long enough. I think I had it extra long anyways when I had it remade. But yeah, this tractor too loves to pour out all the gas out through the carburetor. I don't know why. I haven't taken it apart. I don't want to. But I just shut off the fuel every time I turn it off. So we don't use this thing as much. Now we have the Bobcat. We get so much more work done with the Bobcat. Oh, so here's another thing I thought was an interesting little factoid. I had this plastic gas can, said 2-stroke, just like this one does, except for plastic. And there was this car broke down by my road here, and this is why I don't like people parked on my street, on my corner, because they think they can just help yourself to your stuff. I called the police and they said we don't do nothing for 2 days, and the car had a note on it. And I came back over here the next day and the car was gone, and so was my gas can. Not the good one, mind you. The crappy little 1 gallon or 2 gallon one, plastic. They stole my gas can down to the road, put it in their car, and then threw the gas can into the bushes. They thought they were so good they could take my belongings and get away with it. And they did get away with it, but their life will take them for that. but I'm not happy about that. My gas can reappeared. My wife found it in the bushes and made it come back up here where it belongs. I don't know where it is now. Darn thieves. At least they didn't take the metal gas can and bring it home with them. But at least a common courtesy to come up here and say, could I have some gas, please? You don't know if you don't ask. Don't steal. I'm just sick to my stomach. All the lies and deceit that's going on in our world today. Things that you buy, proclaiming to be something that they're not. People stealing gas cans. Why? Because it's so little value. They figure it's not really a crime until you exceed a certain number of dollars value. And I understand that to some degree. A person's guilt level has to do with the level of damage that they've done to someone or that they acknowledge that they've done. But it's why I keep thinking I need to put a gate out there with a lock. Because there's always somebody down there by the road and you never know who's going to steal and who's not. They could be scoping you out for theft. And that's what this guy did. He parked his car right there. Instead of being a grown-up, I mean, he had a car that was nice enough. He should have had enough money to go get a gas can for his own self. There's a hardware store down the street. There's a gas station down the street. It's not that hard. It's not that hard to ask either, you know. It's kind of like when you warranty something out. Don't lie about the warranty. Why? These companies, they're so particular about the warranty now because everyone's trying to deceive and lie. Lying your way is not the solution. The solution is to present a situation with veracity, not a lie. You are in need because you make bad decisions and you need someone to give you a little boost just for today. And the stranger has the kindness of heart to do that. And maybe most strangers don't. Maybe you'd be turned away. But it seems like maybe that's the loss of hope in our society now. People are so self-sufficient, they refuse to lift a finger to help someone else. I'm self-sufficient, why aren't you? And so now that those who are in need, instead of being able to ask, are already so sure of being rejected. And they decide to just steal instead. It's so sad. I have looked and looked and looked. And when I needed a job, people called me. And I've been called by people who needed a job and needed to make money, but none of them really needed it. Most of the people that have called me, what they really wanted was a free lunch. They didn't really want to help themselves. They didn't want an opening into a business that would give them the ability to help themselves. What they wanted was a free ride. They wanted $100 for today, for the next hit. They wanted to be a free agent yet and earn large amounts of money and yet be unreliable and incompetent at the same time, refusing to learn a skill. You know, these things all compound on one another with the issues of family that exist in our world today, where a person finds it very hard to mate with someone of like beliefs. It's a world of blending now, and we're mixed around with those who are completely different from ourselves. They have no interest in us. They do not like us. They do not appreciate us. And we're wandering and alone, and it's so common. All these people that I see, you find one common point of similarity between you and someone else, and that's the most you could hope for, one or two. And the good friendships that you know of that people have tend to be built on a large number of similarities, whether it be where they come from, the school they went to, or the sports that they enjoy, and all these things seek to be unifying factors for us. I've often hoped that other tree guys would, join together with me, and that we would enjoy our times together, that we would have cookouts and talk about tree life and machinery and stuff like that. And most guys, they want to do their own thing, and they want to be left alone, and they don't want anybody else to talk to them. And I think maybe that's a byproduct of the theft and deceit. If you could take those things out, you'd have a lot more trust floating around just for no reason. But trust is not something that's given. Trust is earned. People want you to give trust for the purposes of deceiving you. So I want trust. I want to be able to trust other people. And you begin to see that in management of businesses where upper management is not required to be held to a particular standard. Their job is to generate revenues. Lower management job is to enforce actual, factual, real world life problems like deceitfulness and theft. And meanwhile, those above them are bolstering the very problem that the lower management is seeking to defeat. Whether it's deceitful employees on the lower level, they're costing the company so much, but the deceitful employees at the upper level are costing the company so much more. And these things are all just elements of one another. It's the degrading of our society, and it's a tragedy to me that my children would grow up in this world. But the best I can hope for is that they'll take a little corner of it and they'll make it their own, and that they'll possess it fully, and they'll be the owners of it. And I can only establish them to the degree that they'll allow it. My children's hearts could be lost to me if I don't parent them well. But if I, at the very least, can train them on how to survive in a bitter and lonely world, possibly equip them with the tools necessary to find a good mate. For a lot of people, it's going to college. I think college is a bunch of tripe, personally, because you go to college and you come out, and a large amount of the time you come out with a degree that profits you very little. Of course, fields that are technical are often not so technical as they might seem, but only filter the applicants through a filter made out of educational systems that basically do not pertain to that field hardly at all. And you have inventors of old that had no or little or no education, but had inspiration, and they built everything they had on that. And those are where our great developments come from. They do not come from corporations. They do not come from the plan. They do not come from things that people have seen from afar. They come from surprises discovered in the desperate pursuit of success, in the perpetual effort of a partially insane man who will never let go and is just a bulldog for success and cannot stop until he has found it, and he finds something he wasn't even looking for. And the educational systems are not to thank for the greatness of our society. We began with simple education, simple math, arithmetic. Even it's not even really called mathematics. It's called arithmetic, and spelling and reading. The ability to read, the ability to input knowledge into yourself without the assistance of others. The ability to produce knowledge, a book of knowledge, to generate revenue by it, and thereby acquire more knowledge through your life and present that to others in the form of literature. And of course, reading is going away now, and a lot of the great knowledge of our time has been given to us in books that are beyond 100 years old. Still things holding true today, such as economic facts. The factors of the world that made it what it was then are the same factors that make it what it is today, but simply being operated by different people in a different way. And human nature has always been the same and will not change. A dog will eat his own vomit. It's always been true, and it will always be true about dogs. You will not make a dog not do that. Puppy, it's in their instinct. It's like that with people too. And of course, there are different types of people. There are different types of dogs. You wish that you could try to make more people better people. And there's different ways that people seek to accomplish that. But I weep for my children. I hope that they can I hope that they can make this world partly their own, and in the growing pressures of our society, there's not much that can save us from it. There is only one name, but we can hope. We can always hope for change. And I didn't mean to make this about anything that would hurt anyone's feelings or any such thing, but I have faced some challenges this year, and it made me a little bit more subdued, a little bit more disappointed in the world in general, and caused me to just give up. And I'm not giving up my business, I'm not giving up on my family, but I've just realized that there's nothing I can do outside of my own ability. I have limitations, and knowing my limitations is a major part in I guess letting go of pride, but letting go of the thing that made me go before, which was I can do anything. Just try hard enough. Try hard is good, but you can't do anything. You can do what you're capable of, and that's all. And the sooner a person realizes that, I think the better off they'll be. But that determined, unrelenting drive is a requirement for success. And I'm glad that I've had it for a time, and now my drive has translated into something different, perhaps acceptance, willingness to embrace the facts of the world that I live in, and realize that no level of anger is going to change the troubles that I face. Only gentle perseverance and continuing the things that I know, that can lead me to a better place. And mentally too, because the frustrations of this business are multitudinous. There's no end of breakdowns, and I have a truck in the shop now. I've finally given up. I just want the shop to do it. I don't care how much it costs, even if they mess it up. I can't. Shops messing up is what makes me do my own mechanic work. Why should I pay someone else to mess it up? I could mess it up perfectly well in my own driveway for the cost of $0, or the cost of parts and time. But my time has gone up in value, and so my machinery repairs have gone down in price. And anyways, I hope you guys have enjoyed the content of the video. I know I'm a big talker, but if you got to this point in the video, then you must have believed something that you heard. So anywho's, have a great day and be all blessed.